Black Scully on check. Got a little black t-shirt on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode on today's docket. So much to talk about today. It's Prediction Thursday. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen the thumbnail already. We got 4 marquee games that we're going to preview for you guys today. We're going to deep dive and we're going to talk about them in great detail. Also, for our Into the News segment, we got quite a few stories we want to talk about. Typically, we talk about 6, but I thought today it should be important that we talk about 7. We're going to get a Baron Morton update to see if he's playing this weekend. To be completely transparent with you, I know that, Trinidad Chambliss and Austin Simmons has been talk across a bunch of college football media this past week as far as who they should start, and it kind of get the feeling of like Jeff Hostetler and Phil Simms. Most of you listening to the show aren't even old enough to remember what that was like when the Giants won their second Super Bowl against my Buffalo Bills back in 1990. But they had a situation where Phil Simms got injured, Jeff Hostetler got hot, Phil Simms was ready to come back, but Coach Parcells and company stuck with Jeff Hostetler for the duration of that season, and that's what that reminded me of. We had something similar. I don't think it's remotely the same in between Baron Morton, that Texas Tech quarterback, and also Will Hammond. Will Hammond played outstanding in his after Baron Morton got hurt in that Utah game, and I saw somebody have like a graphic up, and the graphic was pretty dope. It showed, Baron Morton stats. Baron Morton had thrown 2 interceptions that day, and then it showed Will Hammond stats, and Will Hammond had thrown 2 touchdowns. And while you can use that in whatever way you want to use that information, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit today as well. Le'Veon Moss sneak this in Notre Dame. I don't really think it's sneak this. I think it's how he genuinely and truly feels. I just don't get why he said it. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then if you guys remember springtime, for those who are not 1%ers and will admit that, hey, college football all season, I take a break from it, that's okay. We're not upset with you. Maybe you check it every now and then. But for those 1%ers, you guys remember that, during the spring that Syracuse and Colorado was trying to do a spring game. So we're going to talk about the possibility of that happening next year, and hopefully more teams go to this. I will be more willing to travel during that season if we do get this, and I'll be more excited to see it at the FCS level. Also HBCU teams, I'll be excited to see them do that as well. Urban Meyer speaks on Billy Napier. I think he speaks with a lot of logic. Somebody that's been down there in Gainesville, had a lot of success in Gainesville. It's interesting. We're going to talk about that. Also, NFL draft quarterback watch list. Mel Kiper and Phil Yates talk about who their top 5 quarterbacks for the NFL draft is. Also, SEC schedule shakeup. We've already talked about that in great detail. We'll talk about it a little bit more. And then Mel Kiper on Garrett Nussmeier. For our Governor Reacts, every week we do a reaction to CBS Sports top 25 quarterbacks. And I love to see, week to week, who is, kind of trending too high, who is trending too low. But this week's is actually not bad. I'm not upset at all in any way, shape, or form. So we'll talk about that as well. Also, it's Prediction Thursday. I told you guys we got 4 games that we're going to talk about in great detail today. We got LSU versus Ole Miss, the Magnolia Bowl. We've talked about some of the storylines, but I'm actually going to get my prediction for that game. Also, we're going to talk about Alabama versus Georgia. This is one of them games. It's in Athens, and it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm trying to remember the last time I seen these 2 teams play and the game was in Athens. I don't remember seeing that for a little while. But, my memory could have, served me incorrectly. So we'll talk about that game. Also, we're going to talk about this game that we have. We have a beautiful matchup out of Seattle. I don't think it's getting enough billing, but Ohio State travels to Seattle to take on Washington. I think that's going to be a damn good game. We're going to talk about that as well. And then finally, we're ended with a big enchilada today. Oregon versus Penn State. I know a lot of people are going heavy Oregon here. They think Oregon has played outstanding this year. For some reason, a lot of people believe that, with Penn State, it's the same old James Franklin. It's the same old Drew Aller. And I'm going to foreshadow here a little bit. I don't see that. I don't see how you guys see that. But it's all good. We're all entitled to our own opinion. So that's what we're talking about today. Governor of College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the Alrighty, let's get into the news. I've had my other setup for into the news for about maybe a couple months now, maybe like 3 months now. I've had that set up for into the news, but my base setup, like you guys see in the cold open, I've had that for a couple years now. Changes are coming. I think I want to modernize the look a little bit. In some ways, I'm gonna make it more simplistic. In some ways, I want to, stretch it a little bit. But like I said, I'm all into the evolution of this show. I'm all about it. Everything from the segment designs, of course I prepare all of my notes, setting it up for YouTube, getting it ran through Restream. One thing I got to get better at is post-production and starting to get, more shorts out, because every short that I put out has done really well. I just got to put more shorts out, get more uploads done, and just kind of find a way to beat the algorithm, because YouTube algorithm is really weird. I think Twitter does a much better job of getting this out to the masses. I feel like YouTube is judgy, but I think they have the right to be judgy. Hey, why don't you try putting out like 500, 600, 700 videos, put the work in, and then, hey, we may give you an opportunity. I feel like that's the way YouTube works. Twitter doesn't discriminate. If somebody's interested with your title, they'll click on it. But let's get into the news. So Baron Morton health status this upcoming weekend. Let's talk about it. My apologies. My notes are all the way up top. How everybody doing today? It's Thursday, 9:25. We do have college football tonight for those of y'all who are NFL fans. Not saying that I'm not. We have NFL tonight as well. I believe the Arizona Cardinals play, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're gonna start in Lubbock, and things have been looking good in Lubbock. We talk about teams that been able to get active in a transfer portal. We seen Ohio State did it. The beginning of 2024, and then we saw the success that they had a season ago, with a lot of those players that they were able to get via the transfer portal and just opening up the pocketbook. Sometimes that's what they're taking. With Ohio State specifically, you had players like C.J. Stroud come in and say, hey, how can we help? How can we get more players here? And I think that was pretty spectacular. So it's great when you have a backup option at quarterback. I opened the entire show talking about Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler. I remember the time the Eagles had Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, and it was interesting to see, how Andy Reid worked them in together. And so ultimately, I believe Vick won the starting job, and Donovan McNabb went to go play for the Washington Redskins. And I'm comfortable in calling them that because that's what I called them my entire life. But furthermore, they were also the Washington Redskins at that time. So the update from Coach McGuire, Baron Morton is doing great. He's healthy. He's practicing. And, if they play Saturday, he'd be ready to go. They do have a bye week this upcoming week. And they got a great win in Salt Lake City this past weekend. So I'm excited that he's ready to go. But I think the coaching staff learned that, hey, we was in a raucous environment. Of course, Baron Morton got all the snaps throughout the week. But the fact that Will Hammond came in, threw 2 touchdown passes, that's something that's you back pocket. Like, okay. This kid is further along than I thought he was. And sometimes as a coach, that's fantastic to find out. That's absolutely fantastic to find out. So moving on to our next story, Le'Veon Moss kind of talking about Notre Dame Stadium. I thought this was interesting. I don't understand why he said it now. I understand him saying it. I do believe that, the words that he say are 100% true. I don't get in saying it now, maybe because they had a bye week a week ago. But Texas A&M running back Le'Veon Moss lit up Notre Dame fan base this week. He called the Irish crowd pretty cool, but it ain't nothing like Kyle Field. And I think that anybody who watched college football would agree with this. The thing about Notre Dame, you see touchdown Jesus, it's like one of those meccas in this sport. I truly do believe it's one of those meccas. Like, if and when this does happen, I do get credentialed at Notre Dame, and I'm able to stand on that field and see that, I'm going to tear up, right? I'm going to absolutely tear up. But do I expect a raucous environment that I would expect to see in a Columbia, South Carolina? No. Would I expect it in a, Columbia, Missouri? No. College Station, the 12 man. No, I don't expect that environment. I don't think anybody else should. First and foremost, it's a Catholic school. Not saying that they don't get loud. Yes, they get loud, but it's just different in the Deep South. Football is just different in the Deep South. I wouldn't expect that type of environment in, Tuscaloosa or in Athens or what we seen in Knoxville a few weeks ago when Georgia took on Tennessee. I don't expect that, but I do expect to see creme de la creme, top shelf. Like, I feel like I'm at a fine dining event is what I would expect going to South Bend Stadium and seeing everything that you see once you're inside of that stadium. That's what I would expect. I'm not sure what other people would expect, but that's what I would expect, 100%. Just being completely transparent. So Fran Brown and Coach Prime, possible 2026 spring game. They tried to do this past offseason for any of you guys who missed it. During the spring season, they wanted to do a scrimmage, which would have been great financially for both institutions. I think the NCAA said it wouldn't be fair because some teams had already had their spring game. Historically, Liberty always is like the first team to finish their spring season. I'm talking about like in February, they're almost done with their spring season. Like this past year, I believe they had their spring game on March 1st. Some teams aren't even in full gear practice yet. That's just the way that it has worked at Liberty, at least the last few seasons that I remember. Right, so this year, I think they're trying to get the gears going to, hey, early 2026, March 2026, or April, whenever they decide to have this game. Hey, this should be something that everybody do. Find a team that you're not going to play. Hey, all summer, we're going to beat up on each other. All spring, we're going to beat up on each other. Why not have an opportunity to beat up on somebody else? And for those of y'all who are worried about injuries and concerned about all of that, quarterbacks don't got to get hit. But let's just say there is an injury. And God forbid, there's still 4 or 5 months for that said player to recover. I think that's why it will be an outstanding opportunity, especially I think the earlier you did it, the better. And even if you did it, right, and had film to watch, and that's not the end of your spring season, let's say you put it like smack in the middle of your spring season, right? That way you have something to watch, and it's almost like game day. You have something to watch. You got film to look at and things to correct before you're in your spring camp. I think that would be outstanding. But most schools are going to say, hey, that's it. Boom. Summer workouts and then fall camp is what our focus will be. So I think this is a great idea. I'm glad that they're still pushing it. And Fran Brown told Rick Eisen that there's still a chance. So happy for him that he's back on ESPN for it to happen after last year's attempt fell through. Brown also praised his personal bond with Deion Sanders, and Prime has been a mentor and truth teller in his corner. Fran Brown is an outstanding college football coach. I hold Fran Brown in very high regard. And if you've watched the show long enough, you know that I hold Fran Brown in very high regard. I need this to happen. This would be so dope for the spring season. I continue to be an advocate for stuff like this because our sport is so short. We don't get a bunch of weeks of our sport. We're not lucky like MLB where, your off season is barely, a couple months, right? Or NBA, they have a short off season. And even the NFL, I don't want to say it's short. Of course it's longer than the college football season, but this thing of ours that we love so much and we hold so near and dear to our heart, like we're already a quarter through the season, right? So I think that's just something that we all need to, think about and all need to, consider, when thinking about the sport. So I just think that this is an outstanding opportunity. So Urban Meyer speaks on the Billy Napier situation. And I love when people address the elephant in the room, but they address the elephant in the room from their perspective with facts. Urban Meyer says that Florida isn't moving on for Billy Napier just yet. And the reason is money. With a $21 million buyout hanging over the program, Meyer told Triple Option Podcast that the Gators don't have the resources to make the change. The reality is interesting. The resources in Gainesville are plentiful. They've spent a lot of money getting recruits to come to their program. Whenever they've needed to get active in the transfer portal, they've had the ability to get active in the transfer portal. Not saying that I disagree with Urban Meyer on this, but he is closer to that program than I am, right? Being that he coached there and he was a two-time national championship coach there. So, yeah, if he says it, I'm going to take it as fact just because of his proximation. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering what hasn't happened yet. Like we saw Mike Gundy get fired, this past week. The week before, we saw 2 coaches get fired. We saw Deshaun Foster get fired, and we saw Brent Pry get fired, right? So, not saying that I'm wishing for Billy Napier to get fired, but I did not have on my 2025 college football bingo card Clemson starting 1-3. Let's start with that, and then also Florida starting 1-3. So, you can look at this half full and say, yeah, they got time to make this up. They have to be perfect. And I don't think we've seen them either program remotely close to good yet. So having to be perfect, for said amount of games, I just don't see that. Let's talk about this quarterback watch list a lot. We don't talk about the NFL a lot. Occasionally, I will use an NFL example. You guys have seen me do that with the Buffalo Bills quite a few times. I will pull from an NFL example, and Buffalo Bills is, has been my team all my life. So I typically pull from there, but we're going to talk about the NFL a little bit. And Phil Yates and Mel Kiper just dropped their top 5 quarterbacks for 2026. You got Lenore Sellers at 1 at South Carolina. I haven't been overly impressed with South Carolina, but keep in mind that when I watch college football, I watch it from the eyes of someone who's a diehard college football fan. I want all of these kids to have success at the next level, but my wheelhouse isn't scouting for the NFL because I believe that the things that matter to the NFL would never matter to me. It really don't. Some of these scouts probably don't know the difference between the border war and the backyard brawl. Let's be honest here. They're not true college football fans. Some of them are, but some of them wouldn't know the difference. They wouldn't know what a Magnolia Bowl is versus an Egg Bowl. They wouldn't know what it is. I'm being honest with you. So I'm not going to pretend to be a scout. There's certain things that NFL teams are looking for. Granted, I never quite understood the NFL scouting process to begin with because you can see all the film in the world and then you go meet in Indianapolis for the combine. You talk with a player. You feel a great way about the player. Player throws there. And now you're excited about them, or you get an opportunity to see them at the Senior Bowl, which I get the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl is NFL environment. They always get coaches from that level. They do have to learn the system. You do learn a lot about them down there, so I get it from one perspective, but I will never understand the mindsets of scouts, right? So I never try to be one. I never will. And I don't even do it at the high school level. I really don't. Like, I always try to pay attention to who's going to be getting pivotal playing time, this upcoming season, right? And then I get invited to Debbie Darling's, and if I don't get invited to Debbie Darling's, I'll watch the show and figure out who's next, right? That's always been my approach. I am not a scout. I am a truth teller about college football. I will watch college football. I trust my eye test. I can look at both teams. I can see who's winning the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage, and I can tell you who's going to be good and who isn't. Sometimes I'm wrong, right? Because a lot of times we don't have anything to go off. We don't have preseason games in this sport. So if I had saw preseason games from Clemson and, Florida this upcoming season, I probably would have had a better clue of who they are. I just can only go off of their roster construction and what we're hearing. But it's all, everything is all good, what you're hearing from. And so let's get back to this list. Lenore Sellers at 1, John Mateer at 2. We did report yesterday John Mateer will be out for a few weeks. They're saying 3 to 4 weeks. Hopefully he can get back by that South Carolina game. If not the South Carolina game, there's another game that they got right after that. Hopefully he can get back by that. Fernando Mendoza is 3, and I'm sure he's skyrocketing up draft boards. That performance that he had, 5 touchdown performance versus Illinois this past weekend, they demolished the Fighting Illini. It was hard to watch. And then Dante Moore is climbing up draft boards. Shout out to my dog Nino Brown, because he's been bigging them up the entire time. SE has been bigging them up as well. SE said something so great, and it resonated with me so well. He had said that, hey, Bo Nix was doubted when he got in Eugene, correct. Right? Up next, Dylan Gabriel was doubted when he got in Eugene, correct. Both players, by the way, are in the NFL. Dante Moore has been doubted, right, before the season started. And this was my dog, S.E. Romero, so shout out to him. He said that, and I thought it was great. And Dante Moore is playing outstanding right now. I think that's why a lot of people are overwhelmingly favoring Penn State. I'm not one of those people in this upcoming game. And then Drew Aller at 5. I did see one NFL scout say that if Drew Aller could win some big games this upcoming year, he could be QB1, for this class. But we only heading into week 5 of the season. Yes, a quarter of the season is gone, but these players are going to have plenty of opportunities to prove to the scouts why they're, an elite quarterback. I really like Drew Aller a lot. I've been a fan of his for a very long time. A lot of people are not, but I can look at Penn State and I can say that Penn State are built on the pillars of being able to win the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. That's both offensively and defense, play outstanding defense, rush the passer, run to pass the rock. That's their system. He's not in a super quarterback-friendly system like the kid Carson Beck has right now, or what Colin Klein is doing in College Station right now. That's just not the system he's in. But I can look at that as a college football fan and say that there's just things and skill sets and intangibles that scouts are looking for. I'm not a scout. I'll never be a scout. We talked a lot about the SEC shakeup, 9-game format, that 10th power opponent. This thing is going to be really interesting. really interesting moving forward. And they kind of forced ACC hand to go to that 9-game conference schedule. I believe ACC is going to do the 10 power, or Notre Dame as well. That'll be interesting. Mel Kiper talks a little bit about Garrett Nussmeier. Notice that Garrett Nussmeier wasn't in that top 5. And before the season started, for a lot of people, he was, one of the guys we want to watch out for heading into the NFL draft. Arguably QB1 heading into the season for the NFL draft. He was my, QB1 for the Heisman this upcoming season. I have not liked what I've seen this far, and yes, they scored a lot of points, this past week. It greatly helped their points per game average because they were averaging just shy of 20 points per game, and people were starting to get a little worried about LSU. So, and Brian Kelly visibly upset when he got asked the question. I know a lot of people in the media said, well, he had the right to get upset about the question. Yes, it's his prerogative to get upset about the question, but, if that statement right there made you emotional or something that you're feeling too. Right? That's the logic that I came up with. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that is into the news. We're going to head right into our next segment, and we're going to get into what I like to call Prediction Thursday. First game up, we're going to talk about this Magnolia Bowl. Be right back.
All the way.
Finish it there, y'all boys. Finish on 3. 1, 2, 3. Finish. Family on me.
Let me copy it over. Hey man, appreciate you, bro. got a new set design and I forgot to copy the mic over. Let me copy it over. Let me just have it copied so I can copy it over to the next one. So we're gonna start off with the CBS Sports Top 25 quarterbacks. This is something we've done every week. We've reacted to it every week, and hopefully you guys like the new overlay. I'm gonna play a little bit with the overlays. Like I said, we've been kind of.
Hey, finish it there, y'all boys. Finish on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Finish. I love the setup that I created over 2 years ago, but sometimes you just need to be involved. I believe I got video playing in the background as well. Boop. All right, now you guys should be able to hear me. Like I said, I was just so excited to set up this new overlay. It is what it is. We're good, though. So Fernando Mendoza comes in plus 29 spots at number 1. Told you guys a little bit earlier that he threw for 5 touchdowns versus the Fighting Illini. Outstanding game. And after his performance last week, he deserved to move up to 29 points. Hey, Moon, I certainly appreciate you. Thank you, brother. I figured you would like this. Like I said, I wanted to go minimal. Plus, I don't know. I just wanted a new look, bro. So, like I said, the new thumbnail, new everything. That's just what I wanted to go to. Josh Hoover, a guy that we had the opportunity to interview at Big 12 Media Days. And I say we, and that's my dog Moon, who's actually in the comment section right now. He had an opportunity to interview Josh Hoover. We had a great feeling about TCU leaving the Big 12 Media Days, and they're looking really good. He's +6, quietly stacking wins, and I'm proud of the way TCU and a lot of, these other Big 12 schools are playing right now. There'll be a little bit of cannibalization as these teams start to face each other. Like, even what Arizona's doing right now, even what BYU is doing right now, you got to be proud of the way these teams are playing. Haynes King has looked phenomenal. I think Haynes King is second in the country in ball placement, like when we look at advanced analytics, and he's not known as a guy that does that. So you look at his dual threat ability and the fact that these advanced analytics are saying that he's really accurate. I think he's a guy that if he gets invited to the Senior Bowl, he's going to wow these schools. He's going to wow these schools. I promise you he's going to wow these schools. Moon, I truly appreciate it. You are a guy who's always been super creative. I used to always love watching your streams. And though I think you're an outstanding streamer and it used to be really engaging, I used to just want to watch and see what has he done next with his stream. So I had you in mind when I made this, brother. Also, Marcel Reed is coming up at number 4. He stays at the same spot. Carver and Concepcion are dangerous. They are really dangerous. And you look at Le'Veon Moss and you look at Ruben Owens, what they got as a spellback. Texas A&M is going to be really dangerous. And I like the fact that Marcel Reed is fourth on this list. Trinidad Chambliss. Dude, I don't think there's been a more buzzworthy quarterback talked about this week than Trinidad Chambliss. You look at what he's been able to do, and coming out of Oxford, Mississippi, all we heard in the offseason is Austin Simmons this, Austin Simmons that. You know, we seen the packages that the university put together. It reminded me of the program. The program is my favorite sports movie ever. It slightly edges out Any Given Sunday. What's another one? Remember the Titans. The program is my personal favorite because I'm a college football diehard, and I felt like that movie depicted college football very accurately. And then we looked at Cain is Able, like that press run that they try to do as far as, you know, Cain being able to win the Heisman Trophy. I feel like that's what they were doing in Oxford for Austin Simmons. But Trinidad Chambliss, they're going to have a really difficult time, you know, trying to figure out what they're going to do with him. You know, for right now, if my money, I'm glad I'm not Lane Kiffin. Trinidad Chambliss should 1,000% be in the starter. I think the confidence you can give him, even though he's a senior, confidence you can give him in a game, in a Magnolia Bowl, and the way that he's played, and he don't really turn the ball over a lot, look out. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. Vandy is quietly winning a lot of ball games. Yeah, it is mind-boggling. Let me say something that Ward Moon just said. He said, man, there's so many games this week. It's truly mind-boggling. It doesn't end. We can go bar for at least 20 or 30 deep. I agree with you. There's a game out in Winston-Salem that a lot of people aren't talking about. And it was difficult for me for Prediction Thursday to figure out what games I'm going to talk about. And Prediction Thursday may even run as Prediction Friday. And we may end up talking about some games on Friday as well. Because there's a lot of, like Moon was saying, sleeper games that I'm not even talking about today. But Diego Pavia that kid is incredible. If you're not a fan of Diego Pavia, you're not a fan of college football. You're really not. You're really not. I don't care if he beat your team. I don't care if he talk crap about your team. If you don't like him, you're not a fan of college football. That dude is living the Rudy story in 2025. And it is absolutely impressive. Jada Maava, or Mavi, however you say his name, USC plays Illinois this weekend. That's another fantastic game, another calibration game that is going to probably really tweak with the minds of people, because if you look at what USC has been able to do so far, you say USC is going to win that game. But if Illinois win the game after we just seen Illinois get absolutely embarrassed on national television a week ago, what you're going to say to yourself is, oh man, USC is sorry. But that shouldn't be your thought process, because styles make fights. I've been trying to explain this to people for years. If you're a boxing fan, you understand that styles make fight. Just because boxer A beat boxer C, you know what I'm saying, that boxer C beat boxer B don't mean boxer B going lose to boxer A. Styles make fights. There's a game in Iowa City this weekend at Kinnick Stadium. We got Indiana traveling to Iowa. And I was telling my dog D now, who's an Iowa fan, right? But he's an honest Iowa fan. He's brutal when it comes to his team. And everybody that I know is the same way. You know, he's extremely honest about Iowa football and where they stand. Nino's the same way with Boston College. Mona's the same way with all of the greater Georgia area schools. And Boomer's the same way with Oklahoma. When they're playing bad, they'll be the first to tell you that they're playing bad. And I was telling D now that I believe that Indiana's on upside alert this week. He said, no way, not the way that they looked last week. I promise you, this game is going to have everybody on the edge of their seats. And if it's not, I'm wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. Taylor Green. It's crazy. Taylor Green has went down 2 spots. That game in Memphis arguably was game of the week a week ago. You know what I'm saying? And it was BTA more than 100%. But Taylor Green is outstanding. I think he's another quarterback that can rise, because his intangibles is just so hard to teach. So be interested to see that. Thomas Castellano stayed the same. I believe Florida State did have I think Florida State might have beat the crap out of somebody this past week, but he stayed the same. Byron Brown come in at number 10. Damon Williams, Washington. If you have not had a chance to see this kid play yet, the world is about to find out about him. They really are this upcoming weekend. And I'm not saying Washington is going to beat Ohio State, but they can. If they play sound defense, if they rely on Jonah Coleman, I'll talk a little bit more about this game a little bit later. I love the job that Jedd Fisch has done. And his tenure there, hated the way he left Arizona, but I love the job that he's done there. Watch out for Washington this upcoming weekend. Dante Moore, plus 12. He's just proven a lot of people wrong, including me. I wasn't sure how well he played, And I said to everybody that, this first 2 road tests, yes, he went on a road, played against Northwestern. I believe that was his worst game statistically this season so far. It'll be interesting to see how well he plays this weekend in a whiteout. By the way, my dog Jalen, whom I have a show with today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, said that he thought that the whiteout was overrated. So Moon pursues to put BTA and send him the Mobama clip, the original Mobama clip, when the crowd was, they had to call a timeout, bro. He sent them that clip, and I can't believe he said the whiteout was overrated. That's crazy to me. I don't understand that way of thinking, but I appreciate you, Moon. I did see that. Coming at number 13, Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton is better than advertised. He really is. I feel like Georgia always has that type of quarterback that I think he's good, but, can he go out and win ball games, right? I think that's what everybody says when it comes to Gunnar Stockton. And, they've had the bye week this past week. How prepared would they be for Alabama? You're looking at, in my opinion, the best coach in the sport in Kirby Smart. And you're looking at a guy that's trying to figure it out in DeBoer. We like what we've seen out of Alabama since the Florida State beating. But this is another road test. This road test is tougher. Tougher might not be right. Might not be the right verbiage, but I'm going to go ahead and on the limb and say tougher than that climate that they seen when they traveled to Tallahassee a few weeks ago. It's going to be interesting. We're going to find out a lot about that team. Joey Aguilar. If I have not been more wrong about a player than Joey Aguilar. And the crazy thing is, I was a fan of Joey Aguilar. I just did not think he would fit in this Vera Shoe system the way that he has. And it's been a glove in hand fit. It really has. Bo Perbula, put some more respect on his name. He should be higher on this list. He should really be higher on this list, in my opinion. Sawyer Robinson went up +4. Quiet climber. A lot of fans are asking a legitimate question, and I asked the same legitimate question. Why isn't Sawyer Robinson scrambling? Like, something going on with him, like he isn't scrambling this year. We've seen him scramble a season ago. That'd be interesting. We got Carson Beck at 17. People don't like the fact that Carson Beck is a game manager, and that is intriguing to me because when he was a gunslinger, you all had an issue with it. Oh, he turns the ball over too much. He's protecting the ball, still putting up pretty damn good numbers, and you guys had an issue with it. That's confusing to me. Dylan Raiola went up +9. That's confusing to me. Not because that they lost, and I'm not saying that he isn't playing good enough. I'm trying to keep things in perspective. He's a sophomore, but before the Michigan game, it was a Cincinnati game for me. And they started out that game really well, but they struggled to move the ball in the second half against Cincinnati. And that was alarming to me. And, and truth be told, we did say coming out of Big 12 media days, we felt a lot better about Cincinnati than before we got there. And, my respect level for Scott Satterfield as a coach just went up since that time, too. Aiden Childs +16. Aiden Childs is legit. I've had a chance to see him in person. Furthermore, a lot of times when I see these quarterbacks in person, I want to see their sideline interaction. If you're lucky enough to go to a game and you're on the field, I try to go to the visitor sideline because they're just visitors. They're not going to, they don't care about you being close to the team or none of that. They really don't. So I'll literally be there and I'll watch and see how people interact. Like I was able to watch Merlin and USC a year ago for Merlin's homecoming. I was able to see how Lincoln Riley interact in a little car that he carries. And I don't even think it's a play call sheet because he just knows the system that well. I just think it's kind of probably percentages of, when they blitz or, maybe a certain call to make on 3rd and long. I think that's all it is. It's just a little tiny card. But with Aiden Childs, every play, after every drive, whether the drive, ended well or it ended poorly, and even if the mistake wasn't his, he took onus for that mistake. And I think his teammates really appreciate that. And he's bigging them up on the sidelines. Hey, you were open. Taser Walker and Evan Pryor, a fun combo to watch. I would agree with that 100%. And like I said, just seeing Aiden Childs on that sideline and how he acts and interacts, I don't even want to say even kill. He's just optimistic. He truly feels like, hey, next drive we're going to get him. And in that Merlin game, it came to fruition because that's when he hit the deep bomb to Nigel Marsh and they was able to win the game. Devin Dampier -9. And he probably deserved to fall a little bit more. That performance that they had against Texas Tech, and I get it, Texas Tech spent a lot of money in the offseason to gear up their defense because they knew that offensively they were going to be okay. But that's a bit much. And Luke Altmaier, yes, they got the hell beat out of him this past weekend. He fell 14 spots. Crazy. Darian Mensah, he's back up. He's at the 22nd spot. after a game that a lot of people were saying, okay, this is probably, NC State's opportunity. Duke did find a way to win that. Ty Simpson stayed the same. We're going to find out a lot about him when they travel to Athens. We'll talk about that game a little bit more this week. Jalen Daniels has played outstanding this week. If he stays healthy this season, I think he has a shot at playing on Sundays. And a lot of people may not agree with it, and that's cool, and that's okay. But I truly think he has a shot to play on Sundays. And then we got Jackson Arnold, who came in at the 25 spot. He's down 8 spots after this weekend's game versus Oklahoma. We're going to move on to our next segment. Now it's the Magnolia Bowl, which you guys didn't hear. I'm going to go ahead and copy this Blue Yeti, so when we go to it, we can talk about it. Alrighty. Let me mute that. I forgot to mute that. So we got LSU versus Ole Miss. This is going to be a really good game. And this is one of the games I had to pick for in my Roll Dogs S-Pop League. This is a really hard game to pick. If this game was at LSU, I would have went LSU. But because this game is in Oxford, even with everything going on with the Landry Kiffin situation, I still decided to go with them. I don't know. I liked a lot of what I seen about them. So let's talk about the soap opera a little bit. If you don't know, Lane Kiffin's daughter, Landry Kiffin, is dating Whit Weeks, who's the linebacker for LSU. They decided to go public the week of the Magnolia Bowl. Extremely weird to me. The timing is crazy, but it has everybody buzzing. I'm not the only person talking about this. A lot of people are talking about this. But LSU leads the all-time series, 64-42 with 4 ties. But, the last 2 years have been instant classics. Instant classics. I thought that Ole Miss should have won a season ago. LSU had a lot of resolve in that game, and they figured out a way to win. And then, in 2023, it was another shootout as well, and Ole Miss won that game as well. But, I feel like the Magnolia Bowl, you look at the last 2 years of the Magnolia Bowl, and the thing that I say to myself is going to be fireworks. It's going to 100% be fireworks. And then you add in the fact, that Landry Kiffin is dating Weeks. And I said this earlier, I think this was a few days ago in an episode, like, I would truly be treating my daughter like the feds. Don't ask me nothing. Nathaniel, can you come to practice? No. Can you come to the games? No, you can't. After LSU week, you can. And if we had played them in the conference championship, it's the same thing. You can't come to nothing. No rice, no champagne, no nothing. You can't. It just won't happen. That's just where we at, right? So let's look at the numbers a little bit. Ole Miss is 4-0. They're 2-0. SEC play, they ranked 13th overall. This team is great. And my dog, Dante from ECG, actually, I'll be on their show Tuesday night, so you guys check that out. From ECG, had a great point. He said, maybe everybody's just a year ahead of Ole Miss. And I was like, dude, that's a great take. That's exactly what I said. I saw the short. I said, that's an outstanding take. Because if you guys remember last year, I was all in on Ole Miss. I said, yes, Ole Miss is 100% winning it all. I was confident in that pick. But there's a lot of things to like about this team. At quarterback, whether you like Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss, if you're just looking at the numbers and the numbers alone, and if you look at the eye test, in my opinion, the eye test says that Chambliss is outplaying Austin Simmons. But that's for you all to decide. I'm just going to look at the stats. 719 passing yards. This kid is, you can just tell he's just been there before, even though it wasn't at, the highest level. Shout out to my dog, Jalen. Jalen's in the building. RIP Ole Miss, you're crazy. Oh, man, I can't wait to talk about this game today, Jalen. I know we only going to talk about it during Rapid Fire segment, but, yeah, we won't talk about it, bro. Definitely going to talk about it. Keywan Lacey got 358 yards on the season. Harrison Wallace, the third, 343 receiving yards. Linebacker Jaden Yates leads the team in tackles with 29 tackles. LSU is also 4-0. They're 1-0 in the SEC. They're ranked 4th overall. They're averaging 29 points per game. But their defense is playing outstanding. They're just giving up, 99.2 points per game. That's 9th nationally. And like I said, their 29 just skyrocketed it, but because of the team that they just played, the Ferris State legend, absolutely. But I'll get into my concerns for both of these teams. But Caden Durham does have 213 yards rushing on the season. I've been a little bit weary of their inability to run the ball this year. It's been weird. So let's talk about schemes. You guys know when I do breakdowns, I like to talk about schemes. Schemes are fun. While Ole Miss does have an offensive coordinator, the play caller is Lane Kiffin, and he'll still be the play caller in for years. He'll continue to be the play caller. A lot of zone and gap runs paired with RPOs. It's a lot of motions, tempo, misdirection, stress the defense. discipline, often forcing breakdowns. I think Chambliss is the perfect fit at quarterback. And Austin Simmons is young. When are we going to see the LSU run game come alive? That's a great question, because it's not that Caden Dorm isn't a dynamic back, but haven't we seen this before? Haven't we been here at this movie before, Moon and Jalen? Weren't we just saying this a couple of years ago? Like, why is Brian Kelly struggling to run the rock with LSU? We've been here before. This isn't a surprise. And then shout out to my dog, Jalen, because Jalen can't stand Pete Golding. But I'm going to talk about Pete Golding defense for a little bit. It's like a multiple 4-2-5. You can say it has a lot of roots in 3-4, but it's a 4-2-5, 3-3-5, and almost like a 4-1-6 look as well. His coverage philosophy is rooted in cover 3, cover 6, and rooted in quarters match and cover 7. If you guys know what that is, it emphasizes numbers and advantages: 3/2, 4/3, and flexibility. The key communication, which Ole Miss tempo offenses are designed to disrupt. So, mind you, now history will tell you that Pete Golding defenses, a lot of people just don't like their defense, right? And right now they are giving up some points. They are allowing 19 points per game. They are too reliant on their passing game, and it's frustrating for their defense. Yes, they are expecting Garrett Nussmeier each and every week to be Mariah Carey. When a hero comes along, that's what they're expecting every week out of Garrett Nussmeier. He got to put on the cape every week. And if your quarterback has to put on the cape every week, that's a challenge for me. Because what happens when you play an offense that can put up some points on your defense? Or what happens when you need your offense to go and win a game? So that's my concern. But let's talk a little bit about the players to watch for the LSU side. Make sure you guys are ready. We're going live. College Football Showdown, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central. Jalen, if you want to change that, let me know now, because I know we've done 2:30 my time, 1:30 your time. Just let me know. Moon, if you're still down, also let me know while you guys are in the comment section. West Weeks. Everybody talks about Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, bro. And all West Weeks does is make the ugly plays. That's all that he does. When I look at LSU and I watch film on LSU, the guy who jumps off the screen for me is West Weeks. And I know Harold Perkins, how amazing he is. Whit Weeks, the athleticism, I know how amazing he is. But the guy that just make ugly plays for me, for them defensively, is West Weeks. I think he does all the dirty work for that team, to be honest with you. So we did talk a bit about Ole Miss scheme. Let's move over and talk a little bit about LSU's scheme. Joe Stone is their offensive coordinator. And let's be honest, we've seen a dip in offensive production since Mike Denbrock traveled north to go to South Bend. We just have. We have, and we've also seen a dip in them being passed first. I think the elite teams in this country have the ability to be balanced. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be 50-50 every game. Hell, I'm okay with 55-45, but it should be game-to-game basis. Like, you're playing a tough team. You want to control the rock because you want to keep the rock out of the opposite team's quarterback hand. Might be a run-heavy game. You get in a shootout, you might have to pass the ball heavy. I'm not saying it should be 50-50 every game, but I think 60-40 is a little bit much. And I think this was, a season ago, they threw the ball 60% of the time, which was 6 nationally. I think that's crazy to me. 23 points to Kentucky, 35 points to Arkansas. Pete Golding is still suspect. The LSU offense get right game. Mark those words. Screenshot those words, Jalen, because you're going to eat those words. I promise you're going to eat those words. Red zone, and this is based on 2024, has been a weakness. LSU ranked 115th nationally in rushing attempts near the goal line, struggling to finish drive without a reliable ground game. And if you look at Caden Dorm, that's not his wheelhouse. That's not his area of specialty. But I think we started to get answers, right? We started to get answers to what's going on with these teams. So Blake Baker, I think, has brought defense to LSU. And shout out to him, because what they're doing this year is phenomenal. What he was able to do in year one in some aspects, other than the Jalen Milroe game a season ago, was great as well. But it is designed to stop the running loud. It's athletic linebackers, which we see in Whit Weeks, West Weeks, and Harold Perkins. It allows them to make plays and our DBs to dictate matchups 100%. Coverage consistency has been a calling card. And, that's what we want to see out of an SEC defense. We want to see that consistency. That's a buzzword. And right now, I think they rank, 7th nationally in rushing defense, 11 in total defense. Their defense is playing outstanding right now. Outstanding. I like Baker's approach. It's more of a straightforward 4-3. They can get dynamic depending on the offense that they see. But I like a lot of this. If LSU win this game, I think it'll come down to what Jalen was hinting at. that this offense comes alive. All of a sudden, Caden Durham pops. Not only does he pop in the run game, he also pops, coming out of the backfield. LSU defense is forcing turnovers and being dominant. I promise you, if this game was in Baton Rouge, I would have said LSU won this game. And there are many ways for them to win this game, even with this game being at Ole Miss. But here are my thoughts about Ole Miss. I think Trinidad Chambliss gives them an added type of security on offense because his ability, one, to make those off-script plays, but two, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So, a lot of times he's not going to put you in bad positions. And we kind of talked about, Ole Miss has been able to run the ball a little bit this year, right? Kawan Lacey got, 358 yards rushing, and then they got two wide receivers. Lee and Wallace can give it to you for Ole Miss. So I liked a lot what I seen out of this team so far this season. I love Ole Miss a lot. I think the Vegas line is Ole Miss by 1.5. And that just tells you they're not comfortable. Anything under 3, they think the away team is going to win. They just being nice, right? And the over-under is 54, and that's kind of what we got last year, but I don't know. Maybe Jalen's right. Maybe this is a fireworks game, but LSU defense has been playing outstanding. Ole Miss defense hasn't been playing that great, but Ole Miss offense has looked fantastic, right? Over under 30 points scored for LSU, Jalen. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Can they score more than 30 points? That's an outstanding question. So, like I said, the prediction for me is that Ole Miss controls the pace early. This game is personal. Lane Kiffin already said take the over on the points because he feels the type of way with Weeks dating his daughter. He said take the over. So my guess is they're going to run tempo. Now, will LSU defensively to try to slow them down do what we've seen other teams do, and we'll gladly take the flying. We've seen Syracuse do it this past weekend. You want to go fast, we're going to fake injuries. And if all y'all going to charge us is a $25,000 fine, now I think the SEC will go up. Y'all going to have to find us more money. But, you know what I'm saying? So, my prediction for this game, I think this will be an All-American shootout. I think points are going to be scored. Give me Ole Miss 34. Give me LSU 27. I think it'll be one of those type of games. I can't wait for this game. I forgot what time this game starts, but I'm excited for it. So, let's move on to our next one.
Deep ball for McConkey. He's open.
All right, we're back. I just got to keep remembering to mute and then paste. We got a dandy of a game, and I said this a few days ago. It might have been yesterday. The days start to, blend for me. And when I saw that College Game Day was going to Happy Valley, I'm like, that's the right choice. Night game, whiteout. I know Jalen isn't a huge fan of the whiteout, but I love the whiteout games. But this Bama-Georgia game, and this was the same last year. They played on Week 5 last year, if you remember. They both had byes in Week 4. Just like they did this past year. So both teams got 2 weeks to prepare. So right there in preparation alone is why I'm leaning Georgia. But what my heart tells me, right? And I picked Georgia to win this game, by the way. In the Pick'em League I'm in, I picked Georgia. But my heart keeps saying Bama. Bama's just going to find a way to win. How bad they looked against Florida State, I think they're going to come out with some energy, especially after a bye. I think they're going to come out with a lot of energy. But let's go ahead and get some backstory on this. The Tide lead the all-time series 44-26 with 4 ties. Bama has taken the last 2, including 27-24 SEC championship in 2023, and a lot of us didn't see that coming. And last year's 41-34 thriller in Tuscaloosa. Let me tell you, that game was one of the best games I had seen in a while, and I will say that, and I'll say that confidently because it was a tale of 2 halves. I just remember how poorly Georgia played. Carson Beck cannot throw to the right team to save his life that day, and the way that they stormed back, and if it wasn't for that Ryan Williams play, I'm not sure Alabama would have won that game, but we'll never know, right? It's just one of those things that I think about how poorly they played, and with Nick Saban would have tried to, put up 60 that game because he wouldn't allow them to get comfortable at halftime. I believe what happened last year was a comfortability at halftime. I think that's just the difference in Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban. No shot at Kalen DeBoer, but I just think, it's a difference, and that's okay. So this year, what are you all expecting from this game? You expecting fireworks? You expecting another high-scoring affair? I think in Athens it'll be a little bit different. So let's talk about Georgia a little bit. I think they have the best coach in college football. I think Dan Lanning is getting it. I think there's some distance, but, Dan Lanning is shortening that distance. I still think Kirby Smart is the best coach in the sport. You look at a lot of what he does, And I'm not saying I can't get a good read on Bama. Their run game hasn't been impressive to you. That's to be expected with their starting running back out. And the receivers have been lacking. Yes, A.J. McCarron said something that was so gospel for me when he was saying that Ryan Williams is like afraid to go across the middle. And it was something I didn't want to believe, but he was like, go look at the tape. And I forgot what game I was watching. It might have been a Florida State game. You'll see it if you look at it, right? But Kirby Smart, it's funny hearing Carson Beck speak on how similar their fall camp was to how they did it in Athens at Miami. And all of them are still following the Nick Saban script. Most coaches are still following that script that Nick Saban created. So Kirby Smart, the head coach, I still think he's the best coach in the sport. Then you have Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo has an interesting history. Coached at Colorado State, took a pay cut. That didn't end up working out. Getting fired. Went down to Auburn. Tried to create this gritty speed offense down there with Brian Harsin, the head coach. That didn't work out. He was fired from there. Took the sabbatical, what I love to call a college football sabbatical, which was an analyst position, right? Spot opens up for a coordinator because Todd Monken goes, and now he's, the Ravens offensive coordinator. And then Mike Bobo is now the coordinator at Georgia. And I seen an outstanding job done by him down in, think about it, they were in Knoxville, and Tennessee scored on their first 3 drives. And some of them were like long plays. The first 3 drives, they were scoring points. It was a high-scoring affair. And the fact that was Gunnar Stockton's true first road test as a starting quarterback, for the Bulldogs. And, Mike Bobo just dialed up some outstanding plays. And he prefers balance. When I continue to speak about that word balance, Mike Bobo prefers a lot of balance. His zone-heavy run game, it's layered in play action, chunk passes. They exploit the mismatches. They're not afraid to take shots up the seam as well. And then they're not afraid to run Gunnar Stockton either. That's kind of what I've seen out of Mike Bobo's offense. And it just works really well. And I think he deserves another head coaching job. I really do think he deserves another head coaching job. So let's now talk about Glenn Schumann. I talked about this next wave, this next class of coordinators that we have in the sport right now. And I continue to tell you guys, these guys are only getting younger. The sport is getting younger. And Glenn Schumann is just one of those guys I'm a huge fan of. He knows how to run that 4-2-5, 4-3 blend. It's a multiple offense based on what they give you. And the reason a lot of teams have gone to the 4-2-5 is the passing explosion. And we seeing teams spread out a lot. So that 4-2-5 allows 5 defensive backs on the field, allows a nickel corner on the field, and safeties on the field. But you're still able to stop the run as well. And I like what Glenn Schumann does a lot. And he should get some calls this year during coaches carousel for some jobs. But, a lot of quarter coverages and principles. Exotic on third down will do those simulated pressures that we like to talk about in the sport. And even though they haven't produced, a lot of sacks this year, and that Tennessee game was a little weird. Watching that, and I'm sure it was weird for Moon being a Georgia fan because they can always rely on their defense. But was that an outlier or an anomaly, or is that what to be expected? And that Gunnar Stockton will have to put that cape on like Mariah Carey when a hero comes along and win a lot of games. I think that's yet to be seen. But let's talk a little bit about the numbers for both of these teams. Also, I didn't talk about Alabama. My apology. Their head coach, DeBoer. I did mention him a little bit. I got that Washington DNA. I was excited to hear that Ryan Grubb was coming back after Nick Sheridan was his offense coordinator a year ago. Nick Sheridan is still with the team, by the way. But Ryan Grubb runs that pro spread. I thought Seattle looked decent at times a year ago, but I'm not sure what was going on in Tallahassee. I'm speaking of the first game for Alabama this past, what was that, week 1 of the season. I'm not sure what was going on. I think that was more of an effort and execution than it was a scheme issue. But Ty Simpson has looked much improved. We've actually seen him be mobile in a few games as well. So I expect them to stretch the ball a lot down the field, to be honest with you. And Kane Womack is another guy who really deserves looks during the coaching carousel as well. Also principled in that 4-2-5, 4-3 mix. And it's crazy because you look at both of these head coaches, you look at Kirby Smart, and he comes from the Nick Saban tree, and Nick Saban was always big on a 3-4 defense, but I think the game just caused a lot of people to naturally move to the 4-2-5, and that's why we see it so much. But, aggressive gap, blitz, simulated pressures, as I talked about earlier, disguise coverage, it's pretty much the same thing. And, when a front four can get pressure, that's when that defense is nasty, for sure. Now let's talk about the numbers, talk about some of the players to watch. And I love when me and Jalen break down this game, and Moon's going to join us to break down the game as well, because there's always a couple of players that they see. I think that my wheelhouse is more schemes, just because I'm a nerd when it comes to playbooks. And I think Moon is the same way. I think Jalen is more Jimmy and Joe's oriented, and he can tell you a lot what high school they play for, probably some of the middle schools that some of these kids play for, and how many times that they transfer. Like, he's just that knowledgeable. So Alabama currently averaging 42.7 points per game. They're 19th in the country. Points allowed, they've allowed 15th. That's 27th best in the nation. Ty Simpson currently has 862 yards passing. Jeremy Bernard, believe it or not, their leading receiver, 275 yards. Running back Kevin Riley leads them in rushing. Jalen just said this. Gospel for him. Great job. Only 120 yards for Kevin Riley. Deontay Lawson, he's their anchor defensively. He has 10 tackles, and their leading guy in a defensive back room with 2 interceptions is Bray Hubbard. Let's talk about Georgia a little bit. They're 3-0, ranked 5th in the country. Alabama's 2-1. They're currently 17th in the country. They're averaging 39 points per game. That's 30th. They're also allowing 18 points per game, which is 39th. Gunnar Stockton has 721 yards passing. Zachariah Branch leads them in receiving. And we said when we heard about the transfer, about him leaving SoCal, heading to Athens, like, how well would they use him, right? And I think they're using him pretty well. And I think he's one of those players, he don't fit every system. He don't. But if you can find a coordinator who's creative enough to find ways to get him the ball, I think that'll be great. Georgia has a stable of running backs again. That's a surprise to nobody. He said middle school is crazy. Hey, bro, I'm just giving you your flowers, dog. Raylan Wilson leads them in tackles with 23 tackles, and Jonell Aguero has 1 interception for this team. Now, Alabama certainly has an opportunity to win this game. If they can come up in here, quiet the crowd, have a similar performance to, now I'm not saying the same, but, if they get the ball first, go down, score, maybe able to, stop Georgia, get more points, control the pace of the game. But I think it starts with heart. This little thing right here, I think it starts with heart. They got to come in this game with heart. They really do. That performance that they had against, Florida and Tallahassee was piss poor. It starts with heart. Then after that, it starts with execution and then that will to win. Andre Iguodala said something that I say on the show every day, and I feel like I mention him on a college football day on a weekly basis. In order for them to win in Athens by 1, because they're going to have to fight the fans, they got to fight Georgia, and they're going to have to fight the Zebras. It is what it is. In those raucous environments, the fans will control the Zebras. In order to win by 1, you got to win by 15. And we saw that in Knoxville. Like, Tennessee played the perfect game and lost. Imagine that. And there's no moral victories. That's always our motto over here. But they played damn near the perfect game and lost, right? So in order for Alabama to go in this game and win, to win by 1, they're gonna have to win by 15, if that makes sense. So Alabama's defense got to play better, got to play with effort, got to play with heart, got to hustle, and they have to execute. Most importantly, you got 2 guys from a scheme perspective that can really scheme up. Like, Kane Womack is going to put you in position to win. Go make the plays. They'll be out there to make. Offensively, Ryan Grubb will put you in positions to win. Go make the plays. They're out there to be made. You guys have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Granted, you're not going to know all of their plays. The familiarity that you guys have with each other, you should be preparing for this. Alabama can certainly win this game. And my heart tells me Alabama will win this game. My mind says something else, so I went with Georgia. And the reasons that I think Georgia will win this game is because of the ideology. In order to win by 1, you have to win by 15. That crowd is going to be loud. They're going to be proud of the way that Gunnar Stockton and company played. I remember a game November 5th, 2022. I will never forget this day. All right, I'm going to tell y'all something I shouldn't be telling y'all. It was November 5th, 2022. Guess what I was doing? I was putting up a Christmas tree. And while Tennessee was playing Georgia, I remember all week everybody, it was an overwhelming thing that everybody was betting for Tennessee in that game. It was overwhelming. People were betting for Tennessee. And it's crazy. We got 2 more games to talk about. And I ain't even know we're close. So we hitting the overtime button. We definitely going in overtime today. So I remember that game, and me and my ex-fiance were putting together the tree. The game was so loud. I've never done this before. Georgia had felt so disrespected. I had to turn down the TV. That's how loud it was. It was crazy. It was raucous. I expect that environment when these 2 teams play this weekend. I think that is going to be the biggest factor. Right now, when I look at the 2 quarterbacks, if Gunnar Stockton's playing his best game, Ty Simpson's playing his best game, I think whoever's at home I will like more. And because this game is in Athens, I do like Gunnar Stockton more in this game. I believe defensively, Glenn Schumann will make one more play than Kane Womack from a defensive scheme perspective. So give me Georgia in this game. The lines of Georgia -3. That's a little scary to me because you think about the Florida State game, you would think the lines would be a little bit further, but I think people respect Alabama, and I think that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and move on to our next game.
That's right. I am with Jeremiah Smith, one of the best players in college football.
All right. So we got Ohio State versus Washington. Sneaky good game. This is a very good game this week. When I tell you it's a very good game, it's a very good game. Don't know which way to go. I know which way I should take. I know which way my mind tells me to take. But, this is the first ever, I think, Big Ten matchup between these two teams. The Buckeyes lead the all-time series 9-3, including the 2019 Rose Bowl, where they won 28-23. Washington hasn't beaten Ohio State since 1994. But Husky Stadium, under the lights, I think this is going to be a fantastic setting. And it's going to be a coaching chess match, to be honest with you. Ohio State, their head coach is Ryan Day. If there was a guy who got a severe monkey off of his back last season, it was Ryan Day. But if there's a guy who fan base is still not 100% happy with him, it's Ryan Day. He won the national championship, but guess what he didn't do? He didn't win the game. He didn't win the game. And hasn't won the game for a very long time. I think Michigan has won the last 4 games. If they win this year, they've won 5 in a row. And that's what you're judged by when you're Ohio State coach. Yeah, it's great. Good job. You won a national championship. You should have. That's what the fans saying, right? You paid for your roster. You should have won, but you still lost to Michigan. Who they have at quarterback that game again? Offensive coordinator Brian Hartline. We've seen what Brian Hartline has been able to do as their wide receiver coach. His ability to recruit is, the rich just keep getting richer. If you don't think Ohio State is wide receiver you by now, I don't know what to say to you. We can't even have a college football discussion. We just can't. But Julian Sayin is playing phenomenally right now. He does have 3 interceptions, but he's completing like something ridiculous, like 79% of his passes right now. I think that's amazing. And with Brian Hartline, I think we've seen him kind of stick to the script of what, Chip Kelly has done. I don't think it's just as exotic, to be honest with you. Matt Patricia, and I saw him having Steve Sarkisian seeing goals, and I just didn't expect that. And Steve Sarkisian even talked after the game with how well he disguised his coverages. That was interesting to me. But he's going to bring that NFL structure. His ability to disguise and confuse quarterback will be on display for sure. 4-2-5 fronts. Disguise pressure, simulated pressures, we're going to get all of that. The bend don't break principles. And the Buckeyes right now ranked nationally second in defense and points per game. They're only allowing 5.3 points per game. And yes, you heard that right. So Washington, we got, their play caller is Jedd Fisch, right? They do have an offense coordinator, but Jedd Fisch prefers to call the plays. And sometimes he will even insert himself to seeing what's going on with the defense. He is one of those really hands-on coaches, but another tempo guy, motion, a lot of pro-style spread concepts, loves to create mismatches with his backs and tight ends. And we've seen this in 2023 at Arizona when Noah Fafita took the college football world by storm. But, and they're not afraid to take vertical shots. That was something that Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer did while they were in Seattle. And that's something that Jedd Fisch has continued. Hey, we got wide receivers. We're going to continue to take out these shots and try to put pressures on you. Their defensive coordinator is somebody that Jalen knows really well, and Ryan Walters. He was at Illinois once upon a time. He's the Purdue head coach. Things didn't go right there, but I think as a defensive coordinator, he's an outstanding coach. And he knows Big Ten. He knows the Big Ten. I think that's kind of like when you take a coach like that as your coordinator, the thing you say to yourself is, 1, he could probably recruit and help us recruit because he knows the Big Ten. And 2, like from a schematic perspective and a preparation perspective, he's able to help you get ready to play these marquee games. Yeah, Matt Patricia absolutely fried Sark. Like Sark, everybody talked about how badly Arch Manning played in that game. I put more onus and more responsibility on Sark. Because normally Sark is cool, calm, collected on the sideline. When he takes that knee and he's kind of just looking at his play call sheet, that's when he's in his zen. But that game, he was seeing ghosts. He was 1,000% seeing ghosts. He's like, whoa, is this what NFL level? And he coached at the NFL, but, I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to mention it. I ain't going to do it. We're going to leave it alone. But Ryan Walters, he's a guy that knows the Big Ten very well. And it'd be interesting to see how well, these guys do this upcoming season. All right, let's look at by the numbers for a moment. Ohio State, they're 3-0. They're ranked first in the country. They're averaging 40.3 points per game. That's 25th in the country. Second in the country in defense, as far as points per game, allowing 5.3 points per game. Julian Sammons, 779 yards passing. Bo Jackson, no relation, 217 yards rushing. Jeremiah Smith, 315 yards. That's the guy you guys see on the screen right now. And Arvell Reese has 20 tackles. And Caleb Downs has an interception. The Washington Huskies, at the moment, are 3-0. They're averaging a whopping. And this is crazy. This is crazy. And this is where I think a lot of people just kind of miss out on, what's going on with a lot of these teams. Because let's be honest, it's difficult to keep up with teams. You know what I'm saying? There's so many college football games to watch. And that's when I started to ask people, like, do you watch college football or do you just skim through it? Like, that's when I started saying stuff like that, to be honest with you. What's going on here? Yeah. Hold on. All righty. All right, so my apologies. I had to double check this. I had to make sure I didn't put this wrong in my notes. Washington is averaging 55.7 points per game right now, and that's second in the country. I just had to make sure I put that right in my notes because I saw it. I said, no way. Oh, no, for sure. They're averaging 55.7 points per game, and they're allowing 18.3 points per game. That's 41st in the nation. I don't know why I was struggling to say that so badly. Demond Williams, must-see TV, got 778 passing yards. Jonah Coleman is the real deal at running back. We've seen him do it at Arizona. We've seen him do it at Washington a season ago. Denzel Boston, real deal at wideout. He's got 249 receiving yards, and Devion Bryant got 17 tackles, and Alex McLaughlin got 2 interceptions on the season. Now, Ohio State will win this game. Make no mistake about it. I think they will win this game. But am I 100% comfortable and confident that they will win the game? No. Because there is a thing that, while I don't see it because of Matt Patricia's defense, what if this game ends in a shootout? Who are you more comfortable with in a shootout? Are you more comfortable with Julian Sayin, or are you more comfortable with Demond Williams in a shootout? And this is a question that Patricia fired. Yes, 100%. How much does home field matter when picking in games? It matters a lot to me. It matters to me 100%. Yeah, I had read that, Jalen. Yes, Matt Patricia absolutely fried Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian was saying ghost. Alrighty. So what happens, and this is what I'm asking everybody in the comment section right now, what happens if this game ends up being a shootout, right? Are you confident in Ohio State's ability to win a shootout? I think if it's a low-scoring game, I think this favors Ohio State because of their ability to play defense. But Washington has been red hot offensively this season. So it'll be interesting to see who can win this game. If Washington wins this game, they've controlled the tempo. They've had success both running and throwing the ball. They've won time of possession. They win in a shootout. If Ohio State won this game, it was a low-scoring game. Yes, the crowd was a factor, but we was able to go in there and do what we need to do and escape Seattle in a win. So give me Ohio State to barely win this game. Don't know what the score will be. Let me see what the spread is. I'm always interested and always intrigued by what the spread is. This game has Ohio State by 8.5. I will be confident. Yeah, playing in Seattle, yes. I will be confident in saying that I am confident in saying that I right now would take the spread with Washington. 8.5 points is generous. That's very generous. And I know Ohio State have looked really good this year, but 8.5 is too generous. I think our friends out west are making a crazy mistake. They're making a crazy mistake. All right, let's get on to our last game of the day. We're going to talk about this showdown. Big Ten country, Happy Valley. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to one of the great scenes in all.
Who's amazing at what he does, but I think the thing that he does best is I think he's an elite troll. You going UW for the upset? No undefeated season no more? I love it. It could certainly happen. I know Big Ten Tate of Ohio State. Ohio State Barstool Sports is going out there. Him and a bunch of his friends are going out there for that game. This game, I think that game is going to be incredible. Now we got the creme de la creme, the big enchilada, top shelf, in a whiteout game. My dog Jalen, man. Jalen is one of those people I really respect in this industry. One, because he's knowledgeable, but two, because he's a troll. And I remember when I first started doing content with Jalen, I didn't quite recognize how much of a troll he was. So sometimes he would say like rage bait things and he would win. But now I know him so well. I know when he's rage baiting. But there's times when you think he's rage baiting, but he just has a take, and the take is just something you don't agree with. So he says he thinks the whiteout games are overrated. And we're going to talk about this on College Football Showdown this evening because I don't agree with it. They're not overrated at all. They're not. Like, it's a spectacle. It's one of the eighth wonders of the world in college football. And I know you were being serious last night. I've also got better at deciphering because this is not the first time that you said that you thought that it was overrated. Jalen, I challenge you to go to the game this weekend. And I challenge you to take a flight and see if you feel the same way after going to the game this weekend. I challenge you. I really do. So we got Oregon. Oregon is red hot. I think Oregon is a buzzworthy pick. If you ask 10 people who you think will win the national championship, 2 or 3 of them might say Oregon this year. I think they love the way that Dante Moore is playing. They trust Dan Lanning. I think they trust this program. And there's a lot of people that I respect that believe that Oregon's just going to march in here and get a win. And the great words of the great Lee Corso, I'm going to say not so fast, my friend. But let me go ahead and give you some of the backstory of this game before I tell you who I think going to win, but I already told you who I think is going to win. So this is a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship. Oregon edged Penn State 45-37. That was probably one of the more confusing games for me in the season because I didn't expect it to be as high scoring as it was, right? And this one, even though it's a regular season game, I think it carries more weight. I think this game will be so huge for James Franklin, like the confidence that it will give this program. It's needed. It's required, right? Both are unbeaten. Both have college football playoff aspirations. We know that. They're led by quarterbacks that are expected to carry their programs. And right now, Dante Moore is just what he's doing right now. Like, I didn't see it. But sometimes I think that's why it's good to be able to sit, learn the system, and then develop the system. I also think it's dumb that they wear all white in a whiteout. All right, you lost me there, brother. You lost me there. A Beaver Stadium whiteout backdrop only magnifies the stakes. So let's talk about Oregon. We know who their head coach is, Dan Lanning. For my money, right now, he's the second best coach in the sport. I'm comfortable in saying that. We know that he's defensive minded with his background in the SEC, defensive coordinator for Georgia a few years ago. He's built in Oregon. He's kind of developed them into an SEC team out west. And I truly feel that way. His ability to recruit is, some people may not like it. They may not like a lot of the tactics that he utilized in recruiting, but he just knows how to recruit. Offensive coordinator Will Stein. I continue to tell you about these coordinators during the next coaching carousel. 40 and under, this guy's elite. Scheme is quick tempoed, quick developing, passes, spacing. The thing that's most surprising me about Will Stein's offense is that Mekhi Hughes hasn't been successful this year. I think that's been the thing that's probably most surprising for me, because seeing him at Tulane and avoid that he left at Tulane, my thought process was, he's one of the top 5 returning backs this year. He should have some success. So it's been a little confusing for me, but I think, we're looking at Dante Moore and how well Dante Moore is playing and the amount of yardage he has in 4 games. He's just playing outstanding. Defensively, Tosh Lupoy. I remember once upon a time when people wanted Tosh Lupoy out of Eugene. I just think they were jumping the gun. They was like, hey, this guy's a joke. Dan Lanning's supposed to know defense. Who's this Tosh Lupoy guy? And they're figuring it out. They're 10th nationally in scoring defense. They're only allowing 9.2 points per game. So they're figuring it out. They have yet to allow a passing TD in 2025, and that's phenomenal. So we talked about the Oregon side of things. Let's talk about James Franklin and Penn State for a second. Franklin has been able to recruit during his tenure in the Big Ten with Penn State, but his inability to win big-time games versus highly ranked opponents is troubling. It's alarming, and, a lot of us this past offseason said, hey, Penn State on paper has the roster to do it this year. They do. But you did not trust their head coach. And that's heartbreaking. But I do love the coordinator pairing that he have, and that starts with offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki. He brings a lot of creativity and balance. He's not afraid to use both running backs. I know a lot of people prefer Nick Singleton. Here at CFB Nation, we've been bigging up Kaytron Allen the entire time. So it's not a surprise when he's leading them in rushing yardage this season. It's just not a surprise at all. And I just think what Penn State needs to do offensively is trust Drew Aller a little bit more. Give him a little bit more, as far as the decision making. If you want to give him 2 plays, let him pick which play he thinks is best in a huddle. Just show him that you trust him. I think that's important. And don't be afraid to take shots, whether that's, extending the drive by going forward on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, or hey, it's 3rd and 1. You got 2 plays here. Go ahead and take a shot. You got the players to do it, but the scheme's been efficient. They're averaging 44 points per game. That's 14th nationally. And then they got a dog at defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. I've talked a lot about him. Penn State is allowing just 5.7 points per game. That's 3rd in the country right now. We know about his 4.25. We know about the simulated pressures. And Penn State has just been able to do that for years, even before he got there. I'm talking about dating back to when Brent Pry, who was just fired at Virginia Tech, was the defensive coordinator there. So they've been able to do that. I think what he's going to bring is just that he's seen everything, and that, a lot of these games going to be personal for him. That y'all must have forgot game. Last time that Oregon played a Jim Knowles coach team, their offense looked pedestrian. And on the other side of the ball, Chip Kelly was just killing that Oregon defense. What changes have been made? Because I know Jim Knowles is going to watch the film that he's seen this year just to see kind of the differences and, and how different this offense looked under Dante Moore. But on the road, when you have the crowd as a huge advantage, and Jim Knowles is your defensive coordinator, Dante Moore is going to struggle this game. He's going to struggle this game. And I know people don't want to hear that. He's going to struggle this game. And not only am I taking Penn State comfortably, I'm taking Penn State by double digits. Give me Penn State by 10. Oregon does have an opportunity to win this game if they their offensive line, they can win a war of attrition on line of scrimmage. That's the first way Oregon can win this game. If they win a war of attrition on line of scrimmage, they're stopping Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen in the backfield. They're struggling to move the ball, and offensively, that offensive line under Dan Lanning's tutelage, they just don't give up a lot of sacks. They just don't. It's just who they are. So if Dante Moore can get comfortable early, yes, and they can deal with that environment and they can shut that fan base up quickly, they do have a chance to win. But I don't think they win. I don't think they win at all. All-time series, Penn State leads 3-2. Most recent, I told you guys, was 45-37 in the 2024 Big Ten championship. The lines are at Penn State 3.5. If Dante going to struggle, is he going to look like a Heisman candidate that he is? I think you just answered your own question. But give me Penn State 31-20. I think they win by double digits. I think Dante Moore in this game, I'm not saying he's pedestrian. I think he looks pedestrian. And I think that crowd will be overwhelming. And you may see Drew Aller play one of his best games of his career. And James Franklin get a much-needed big-time win. Outstanding episode today. I had so much fun doing the show. We went to overtime, which is always great. Make sure you guys don't forget, we do have another show coming up at 2. Is it 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jayla? The time we doing today. It's a vertical show. I always love doing vertical shows because we get more people popping in, more people commenting. And me and Jayla, I have never been afraid to, hey, let's go off script for a second and talk to the fans. We love to do that. I even do it here on Governor of College Football as well. So, fun episode. We got one more episode for the week. Still trying to figure out where I'm going. I think I'll end up in Winston-Salem this weekend, which will be pretty cool. And so, I always like to say there are no more victories in the sport that survive for the fans. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. Until next time, you all take care. We do have college football tonight. Congratulations. Also, before I leave, what happened to Maction, bro? Is that not starting until like November this year? What happened to, the Fun Belt, Con USA? Remember, there used to be time periods where we got college football every night. Other than Sundays, because the NFL won't allow anybody else to play on Sundays. So what happened to that? That's no longer a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not cost effective, but you all take care. Governor of College Football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great defensive
on
minds.
the
They have to be better on that side of the ball.